the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Barrett Sallee is joining us from the Bleacher Report. We've chatted with him throughout the SEC season and the college football season. He's written a couple of pieces recently. The fall of the SEC West won, and Alabama no longer the team to beat in college football. Pretty soon people will start saying that Nick Saban's no longer the best coach in the country. It's only Monday. Barrett joins us, and Barrett, thank you for the time. Happy New Year, and your assessment of what some have described as the fall of the SEC last week.
Well, it wasn't great. I think it was an instance that, a lot of the problems that have persisted in the SEC West all year long, they simply weren't fixed. Obviously, LSU's quarterback situation was a problem. Everyone talks about the injuries for Ole Miss. The reason they lost to TCU is because they couldn't run between the tackles, and they haven't been able to do that in basically 2.5 years. Alabama got beat over the top, which is an ongoing issue for Alabama, one that doesn't seem like it's going to be fixed anytime soon. It's a problem that's been going on for 2 years now. So same thing with Auburn. Defenses, they're just not there. They couldn't stop Melvin Gordon. It's not like Wisconsin was being tricky with what they were doing. Auburn's defense just didn't come to play. Again, an ongoing problem. And I think it shows that there's good football played outside the SEC West. The SEC West this year, while they had 7 bowl teams, they weren't 7 good bowl teams. They were 7 bowl teams that weren't much different than anything else. They were all flawed, and all their flaws got exposed during bowl season.
And I wanted to quickly ask you, though, Barrett, not to quibble about East versus West. Every time somebody talks about the SEC falling, I get emails and tweets from Tennessee and Georgia and other fans talking about how well they did. No one needs to go back and look at the opponents versus the teams. I mean, we know how the SEC East did versus the West, but do you see a paradigm shift here in the future?
A paradigm shift, probably not, because, the SEC West teams, they're still recruiting their tails off. They're still well coached. They still got players. I think now this is probably a wake-up call to say, hey, look, what we were doing before, just in general as teams, are not working. It's not working the way it needs to work. I
agree with you, whatever you said, because we lost Barrett. It is interesting, though. So many questions are now being asked, and we'll try to get back to Barrett. We're rejoined by Barrett Sallee. And Barrett, I know I want to get back to the SEC conversation, but just as a commentator and someone who is in the business, your thoughts from the Deep South on the reaction yesterday to the passing of Stuart Scott.
Yeah, I mean, totally shocking and heartbreaking. I don't think a lot of people like myself didn't realize, how sick he was. I mean, we all knew that he was dealing with cancer, but didn't know how long, how serious it had gotten. So just devastating news. I mean, the guy is a groundbreaker. I mean, he absolutely blazed a path, and the broadcast industry changed it, I think forever in a good way. He had fun on TV. He proved that you can do your job, do it successfully, while still having fun, and I think that's really something that's going to linger forever. And it's just, if you watch Rich Eisen tribute to him yesterday, that was just gut-wrenching. I mean, from the heart, those two, I think Rich called him his work life. Just a devastating day for everyone in our industry, because Stuart really was he was the best.
We're chatting with Barrett Sallee from the Bleacher Report about such mundane subjects as the fall of the SEC. Let's talk about Alabama for a second. You write that they are no longer the team to beat. Some people didn't think they would be the team to beat this year. They survived the SEC, even though they probably won't get nearly as much credit as it seemed at the time. Where is Alabama right now moving forward?
I would say a good program, not the team to beat, though. Right now, I think the team to beat is Ohio State. You look at what they've done the last 3 years. 2012, undefeated. Probably should have played Notre Dame in that title game had they taken their bowl ban when they should have, instead of playing a meaningless Gator Bowl in 2011. And I know BCS projections will say Ohio State would not have gotten in that year. Got a hard time believing that voters would have turned down undefeated Ohio State versus undefeated Notre Dame. Then in 2013, undefeated in the conference championship game this year, in the national championship game, winning a playoff game. The team to beat in college football right now is Ohio State. Alabama's probably the team to beat in the SEC. But I think, and I wrote in my article, the dynasty is dead because dynasties maintain their position over a long period of time. Right now, Alabama is not maintaining its national championship dynasty. And a lot of it is through problems that are consistent. The DBs have not been able to cover deep. That's a problem that's going on 2 years now. And I think what people don't realize is that the Nick Saban's hands are in that cookie jar. There's a position group that he has his hands on most. It's defensive backs. I think Alabama right now, certainly the class of the SEC, people want to beat them, people want to be them, but nationally right now, they're not the team to beat right now. That dynasty is over. That doesn't mean they can't start a new one quickly, but right now it's got to be Ohio State.
I mean, Alabama has lost 5 games in 3 years. Auburn lost 5 games this season. What does that say, though, that we're saying the dynasty's over because championships are what determines that? But what do we know about can we say, I should say, about Nick Saban in terms of the future? He's 63 years old. He's two seasons complete now, removed from a national championship. What's the future look like for him?
I mean, I think he's going to stick around through his end of his contract, which is 2019, 2020, something like that. And, would it surprise me if he rode off in the sunset if he wins another one before then? That wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world to me. But I think that he's going to walk away when he knows it's time, whether that's, winning a national championship and calling it quits and going out on a high note or just playing it through the end. To me, he's still an elite coach. He's still the best coach in the country. He's not infallible. Like we've seen, the last 2 years, there are some issues that he specifically needs to address and hasn't been able to successfully do them, but he's still the best coach in all of college football and is going to have his team, at least in that discussion, year in, year out. To me personally, I think he's going to work through this contract and then go hang out at Lake Burton for the rest of his life, which is a really good idea for a guy who, is getting up there, relatively speaking, in the coaching industry in age. So, Alabama still be there. He'll still have him in that discussion.
What if Urban Meyer wins next Monday night? 3 national championships. Some will say he's 2-2 against Saban, but I look at it in terms of the games that matter. That game in Tuscaloosa, to me, didn't make a whole lot of difference. He's played 2 SEC championship games in a national semifinal, and Urban has the lead. Does that change what you just got through saying as far as Nick Saban being the best coach in the country?
No, I would still say that Nick Saban's the best coach in the country, but Urban Meyer would be second. And if Urban Meyer is able to win a national championship next year on top of one this year, then you have to have that discussion, because at that point there will be no doubt that Ohio State is a dynasty.
Well, why would there be a doubt if Urban wins this year?
Well, because I think
one's trending up, the other one's trending down.
But trending down doesn't necessarily mean you've surpassed them. If Alabama comes back next year and beats Ohio State in the national semifinal, then
but Barrett, you just got through telling us Alabama is no longer the team to beat. Ohio State is. I'm just trying to figure out. Maybe I'm trying to hit a moving target here.
Well, but Urban Meyer hasn't actually built a dynasty yet. Nick Saban did. Like Ohio State.
But we're not. But again, we're not talking about a historical situation. We're talking about the best coach in the country right now. We're not talking about who was the best coach in the country.
But Paul, the best coach in the country has right now. Nick Saban has built and maintained one, and I think it's going away. But
are you saying he's maintained? You're saying he's maintained a dynasty?
I think he did up until.
But I don't mean to parse words, but you also just got through telling us the dynasty's dead. So which one is it?
Right, but he did build it and he did maintain it. We saw him do that.
But it also died.
That's true. Well, you can't rule forever.
Well, but we're not talking about who was the best coach a week ago. We're talking about who the best coach is next Monday night.
Right, but okay. So Urban Meyer goes out there and wins the national championship. We saw him slay the dragon, Alabama, with a third-string quarterback. He wins the national championship. That's great. Now, what does he do as an encore? What does he do next year? With his title in hand, with the target out on his back.
Okay. I got it, and it will be on the next year, no doubt. Barrett Sallee from the Bleacher Report. Took me 8 questions to understand what most of you understood after one, but then again, I've had a rough weekend to say the least. Thank you, Barrett. Always good to visit.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
I have said since the day Urban Meyer was hired at Ohio State, I thought he was the second best coach in the country. And I can't answer how I would feel a week from tonight if Urban wins the game. I think it's the gap's closing, and the gap's closing because Urban now has the lead over Saban in games that determine national championships. But Saban will get his title back in 5 weeks as the best program in the country, at least according to signing day. Is that going to help translate to winning more championships for Alabama? Remains to be seen. Jim is next as we continue on a Monday afternoon. Hey, Jim.
The reason that I like to listen to the show still, even though it's been boring over some of the hacks, like the one you just had on, but Paul, you sometimes delight me. You just did. You didn't hold on to it, but at least you got there for a minute. You held this guy's feet to the fire like you used to do consistently. Talking about that hack, Sallee. Now, I'm going to reveal something. I know a lot of people take shots at me and cheap shots at me on Twitter because I'm going to get personal and tell what happened and a little bit best I can describe. He called me a simple nothing caller to a radio show about 2 or 3 years ago when I encountered him about some of his ignorant, stupid statements he made regarding not just Alabama, but other things in general. I think he's a complete dunce, and I still think that. But he's got a little bit of context to his stuff now that he didn't have before. But how you and why you and Ryan down here feature that guy, I don't know.
Well, listen, I think one thing I like about Barrett Sallee, unlike a lot of the people that we talk to, he gives an opinion. He doesn't equivocate. He doesn't remind you about what he used to say. The bottom line is he wrote Steve Spurrier off before the season and stuck with it even after Georgia fell to South Carolina, and he may have been right. He also said Auburn was the team to beat this year, gave them a reasonable chance of winning the national championship, boldly predicted that Auburn and Georgia would win the SEC divisions, but he didn't deviate. I was a little bit lost on. I think he was trying to have it both ways on Saban. It's a great headline to say the dynasty's dead, but what about Saban? But I also don't blame him, as John said, for not giving a declarative answer. Alabama's dynasty as a national championship team is over right now. But I maintain if Saban won this year, what happened last year would get washed away. Alabama didn't win this year, so now it's all about next year. And Jim, I'll say this, and shut up. The farther away you get from a championship, the more difficult it gets to win one back.
Well, I made my statement last week about the best coach in the nation. I firmly believe it. I believe the guy in Ohio is now the best coach again. Not first time, but again. He was before, and he will be. He is again, in my opinion.
I think the gap is pretty close right now.
Well, it might be, but that's my opinion. I just gave my opinion. What else can I do?
Well,
you do yours, I do mine. I mean, I'm not an idiot. You know, you've given me some respect as far as my regard to.
No, listen, Jim. You called us the other night on the film room. And you were right. I was of the opinion Alabama would figure out a way to come back, and they didn't.
I said all year long the offensive guy at quarterback would get them beat because he didn't have the ability, and I was right. Danny Sheridan said the same thing. He was right. We said he couldn't, and the defense definitely couldn't get them to a national championship, and they did.
Jim, listen, I said that as well, but I felt like they needed a different quarterback because my comment was Sims can't take them to the national championship. I think it's pretty remarkable that Sims took them to an SEC championship.
I don't care how remarkable it is. You didn't get them to the finish line. That's all it counts, isn't it?
Well.
I mean, you argue with me about that?
Jim, I would say this, and this is not spin, but winning the SEC championship, at least where I come from, is still a fairly significant accomplishment. They did it, in my opinion, similar, if not exactly like Auburn did the year before, with pure luck in many spots. Well,
miracles.
Okay.
I mean, the LSU game, they should have lost that game. It was in overtime, and they somehow drew out, as you say in cards, poker, they drew out in that game. The same thing, they didn't go out at Ole Miss, and we know how bad Ole Miss is now, and I don't think your assessment of UC is exactly right.
Hey, Jim, No. Ole Miss was a really good team on October 4th.
That's my opinion. They weren't. They were a very good defense. But I told you all year.
And they were a really good team at the end of October on October 25th.
I know talent, Paul. I told you all year. Bo Wallace was not a quality quarterback. He's not.
Until Laquan Treadwell went down on November 1st.
Golly, you won't even
was a really good team.
Ignore what I say. Why is it I can't speak without being interrupted? I mean, you don't regard me as worth listening to?
I'm listening.
Well, you're not without interrupting for the last year or two. I mean, that's all you do is interrupt me when I get on the point. I mean, it's your show, Paul, but I know what I'm talking about. It's been proven. And all I said was Bo Wallace is not a quality quarterback. I told you the guy at Alabama couldn't lead them to a national championship, and he didn't. I was right. Both counts. So was Danny Sheridan. I mean, yeah, I get a little hot about you interrupting me, but my point is Barrett Sallee is a joke. He's a clown. He's a dummy. I think that's my opinion of him. I know you're going to defend him because you want him back on. I still tell it like it is. I don't have a show to worry about, but you do if you don't stay compelling, Paul. And I liked what you did the first or the middle part of your assessment. I mean, of your dialogue with Barrett Sallee. You put him in his place. Good job. That's all I can say.
Did I interrupt you during that period?
No, you didn't. Finally, after I had to jump on you about 5 times.
Well,
I don't make a penny out of this, Paul. I don't make a penny. You do. You make a lot off me.
I don't make that much from this show.
But you're going to talk Phyllis about her YouTube moronic rants. Well, good job. I see how far that goes.
Well, Jim, I don't control. I mean, I just take the calls here. I don't determine what ends up on SportsCenter and what gets replayed.
Well, all I know is on page 54 in your book, you made the best statement or the smartest statement you've made or the wisest statement and the most accurate statement. You told it like it was on page 54 of the book that's going to be burned at Denny's Stadium.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, and I say this, I still think it's a great book. It may have the wrong title, but it's a great book. And by the way, on Amazon.com right now, Jim, the book is #1 in disaster books.
I know, Paul, and it's almost like an Alabama football team this year. It almost was a great book.
It was. Well, I think it is a great book, and I'm not trying to shill for the book.
I know
only the fact that we have like 100,000 more copies to sell before we break even.
I'm not saying this to the guy.
I will be very disappointed if every Ohio State fan doesn't buy this book and give it to a friend as a gag gift.
Well, they better hurry because the book burning's coming up, isn't it?
We're doing it live outside Jerry World next Monday night, the book burning.
All right, Paul. It's exhausted me. Thank you.
Okay. Glad you called. Appreciate it. Glad I didn't interrupt you. Mike is next. Hey, Mike.
Lord have mercy. I guess Jim thinks the more he calls people names and the louder he talks, it makes him right. But anyway, to get off of that, 2 quick points, Paul. Number one ball game is not going to make Urban Meyer the greatest coach that's coaching.
No, but 3 national championships will.
I understand that. And he also left the SEC, and Saban may have had something to do with that.
May have.
Which I don't know whether he did or not, but I know he left at the height of Saban's height of his run. But you'll also know too that a coach's best years are going to be the second, third year he's at a program. Seems like the fire burns hotter. There's more desire. They're hungrier. After he's been there 6, 7 years and keeps, that program up front, which Saban did this year at Alabama. He made Alabama relevant and kept us relevant with a team that was, to be real honest with you, it's hard for me to say, even being an Alabama fan, that we were the top 4 team in the country. Maybe we were, but my problem is not so much for the quarterback that was there 5 years that didn't play. It's the secondary and the defensive line, which have been a problem for the last 2 or 3 years. And it seems to me like we're getting stale on that side of the football if these recruiting companies are telling us the truth and we've got the best recruits in the country, which I don't know if that's true or not either. But having said all that, if Urban Meyer is truly one of the best coaches in college football, we'll know 5 or 6 years down the road. You're not going to know after one ball game. Let me say this. I mean,
Urban Meyer, he blew the Big Ten championship game last year, which cost him a slot against Florida State in the national championship. This year, he did a phenomenal job. If he loses next Monday night, this conversation will not exist. But if he wins, then it's part of the conversation. That's just the way it is in sports.
I know, Paul, and we're starting to have everybody's having this knee-jerk reaction over something Cowherd said about Saban. We all know.
Yeah, but what Cowherd said in October,
he was Gus last year. Remember, it was Gus who was going to be the greatest coach.
No, he said Gus would win 2 consecutive national championships, and that didn't happen. I mean, Gus went 8-5 this year.
That's what I'm saying. Slow your roll. We'll know.
Cowherd also predicted Tennessee would beat Alabama. It wasn't close.
Amen. And that's what I'm saying. Everybody slow. Saban's still a good football coach. If he's the greatest
No. Mike, Saban is a great football coach. Saban's the best coach in college football right now. The problem with this conversation is that the only thing that Alabama fans accept now overall is a championship, and Saban hasn't won one in 2 years. Okay, that's a big deal. Any other program in America getting to the Final Four is a lifetime achievement, but at Alabama it's not, and that's what Saban asked for. That's what he has. He's paid $7.5 million a year, and fans, I mean, they don't demand it, but they expect it. And when Saban doesn't win a big game, people are looking for answers. Jim acts like this is an 8-5 team that lost to Wisconsin in the Outback Bowl. It isn't. It lost to a great team in the Sugar Bowl, but that's all there is to it. Next year, it's on to next year. Saban will have another #1 recruiting class, and if he doesn't win next year, the questions will be asked again. But at some point, things change. And at 63, does he have the fire in the belly? Is he making the same decisions? I don't know. You judge a coach on the sum total, but if his career ended today, he would go down, in my mind, as the second greatest coach in SEC history. That's pretty good.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Tony, good afternoon and Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year. It was some guy named Twain who wrote that a long, long time ago. So.
Yeah, that is true. And I swear I always thought he used a pen name.
Clemens, something like that. Yeah.
If I keep predicting Alabama to win the national championship, I'll start using a pen name.
Yeah, I think we all should have. That was a crazy, crazy game. But you know, as you look back on it now, and you look at what Ohio State did, they just beat them. They lined up and beat them soundly.
Tony, you were there. You've heard everyone having a great deal of fun with the SEC, and why not? I mean, when you've been the king of the hill and you get knocked off 2 years in a row, why not enjoy it? But you maintain in this column, and I'm sure you'll do it right here, that things aren't as bad as they appear.
Well, listen, people were taking that. There's no excuses for the SEC. Number 1, number 7, number 9 all got beat handily. But to take that and extrapolate, well, you know, the SEC's been overrated for 8 years. You know, they were just being propped up by the media and all the people that put them in the national championship game. We know they've been overrated all this time, and this only proves it. And I don't think you could make that logical leap from a bad bowl week to the SEC is never really eating good. So.
I do want to ask you, though, because, I mean, we were together often this year, and there was a brutal year in the SEC West. I've never seen anything quite like it, and the records and the polls speak for themselves. Not so much what happened. We all know what happened. But at its peak in the middle to end of October, before the cannibalization began, was it as good as we thought it was?
You know, looking back on it, Paul, maybe not. But the fact of the matter is a lot of really smart people looked at those teams, and the committee had three out of the top 4 from the SEC. Maybe they were not as powerful as we thought they were. They were certainly teams with flaws. We knew Alabama had flaws. One of the flaws was in the secondary. Well, we knew that at times that Mississippi State gave up big plays in the passing game. Ole Miss, we knew what the issues were at Ole Miss. They were never the same team after the loss of Laquan Treadwell, after they lost out to Auburn that way. But they were good teams. They were really good teams, and I certainly thought they were capable of winning those three New Year's Day bowl games. But yeah, no, like I wrote in my column, when you look back on it now, based on the reputation, based on the expectations, they didn't meet those, they didn't fulfill their reputation or meet those expectations.
Let's talk about Alabama, because that seems to be the favorite whipping boy, and then we'll work our way down. 2 years in a row now without a national championship. I mean, that's a big statement. I mean, there were times under Mike Shula, Mike DeBose. Let's see, there was another Mike in there, wasn't there? Oh yeah, Mike Price. That Alabama was losing 6 or 7 in a row to Auburn. So I say that jokingly, but under Nick Saban now, that's the standard. And when he loses, whether it's on the most epic play in college football history or in a national semifinal, it does seem, at least for 48 hours or maybe a little bit longer, like the end of the world. At 63, I'm not trying to age him because he still has great energy and great skills, but what do you see in the future for him?
Oh, I see nothing but good things as long as he wants to coach. I mean, I am not a big follower of recruiting rankings. Don't put a lot of stock in them, but all the smart people who follow this tell me they're getting ready to sign yet another very, very good recruiting class. I think there's some issues they've got to work out on the offensive side of the ball, like who's going to play quarterback next year. And but other than that, they've got really good players, and I think they'll do fine. Now, are people going to be devastated when they don't win a national championship? If that's the standard, and I guess it is, if that's the standard, then that's something folks are going to have to live with. But I thought Nick Saban, Paul, I don't know how you viewed it, but I thought Nick Saban did one of his very best coaching jobs this year, to transform the offense, to give Lane Kiffin that much freedom to do what he wanted to do, and to really mask some of the issues that they had on defense. I thought he did a great job coaching this team.
No, he did. He did one of his best ever. Unfortunately for Alabama fans, Urban Meyer did his best. And, we're talking about a national semifinal, and things like that do occur. In terms of the rest of the league, Auburn a year ago tonight was seemingly in control of the game to win its second national championship in a matter of years. The coach who won the first national championship 4 years ago tonight is now a defensive coordinator in North Carolina. Where is Gus Malzahn going to take this program in the future?
Well, if I'm an Auburn fan, I've got to be encouraged by several things. I think the hiring of Will Muschamp is going to pay immediate dividends. There was no doubt that Auburn lacked some things on the defensive side of the ball. There's more talent than anything else than a consistent pass rusher. They missed D Ford a lot more than any of us thought they would. So I think, and Jeremy Johnson will be a very good quarterback for Auburn. He's been waiting his turn, and Auburn's always going to have skilled people. Now, Duke Williams is now coming back. Sammy Coates is not, but Duke Williams is coming back. So I think if I'm Auburn, I'm feeling pretty good about things.
Other than Alabama and Auburn, I want to ask you about LSU. Being down in Louisiana, I mean, you run into the guys people on the street, and they're not happy with Les Miles after that Notre Dame loss. It's now a couple of years in a row. We're 3 years removed from a national championship game, and are they getting back there anytime soon?
Well, when I came over to see you at Manning's last week in New Orleans, Paul, I ran into some LSU people, and boy, they were not and this was before they knew John Chavis was leaving for sure. So with John Chavis leaving, it's I'm not real smart, but I can look at LSU's team, and they have got to get better at quarterback. They've got to do something because they've got great players everywhere else. They got Leonard Fournette coming back, Malachi Dupree. They've always got offensive linemen. And they'll find somebody who can really coach defense well. I don't think there's any question about that at all. But they've got to get the quarterback figured out because this year again proves. Alabama made changes, and I thought they did a great job with Blake Sims. They've just got to get more production out of the quarterback. Les Miles cannot continue to be stubborn about this. He's got to get it fixed.
When we reconvene in Hoover in July, just around the corner, What will it look like? I mean, what will the media be saying? And not that they always matter. They did get Alabama right. They didn't get the East right. But would your best guess be Alabama will be the pick?
Yeah, I would think so. With the people they have got coming back and the way that they've recruited, I think you got to take a look at Auburn, A&M. Are they going to be better now that John Chavis is going to be the defensive coordinator? We know they can do the offensive side of the ball, and I'll tell you this: nobody wanted to play Arkansas at the end of this year. They just beat you up. So do they take another step forward, and can the Mississippi schools? Do what they did again. If Dak Prescott comes back, then Mississippi State will probably be a contender. But they've got to find, they got to figure out what they're going to do defensively. Over in the East, I think it's going to be Georgia. I really do. With the guys they've got coming back, with Nick Chubb coming back, and Bryce Ramsey proved that he can play quarterback. I think it'd be them. And but what we don't know about Tennessee will be better. Florida got to be better, certainly on the offensive side of the ball. I think there'll be I think it'll be Georgia in the East and Alabama in the West.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think I've heard it before.
Yeah. You could just go away for a year or two and still predict that and probably be wrong about one of them.
And let's don't forget about Missouri, Paul, because if we don't mention Missouri,
I tell you what, Tony, I am going to go ahead today and pick Missouri to win the East for the rest of my life.
Got to.
Which may not be very long.
You can't forget Missouri.
What about our favorite ball coach in Columbia, South Carolina? What does the future look like for him?
Yeah, that's one of the more intriguing things because he comes out and says he wants to coach a couple more years, and that is not the answer you're supposed to give. You're always supposed to be there at least 4 years in recruiting. They got to replace Dylan Thompson. They've got to replace some really skilled guys on the offensive side of the ball, and they've got to get better defensively because they can't possibly be as bad as they were this year. So I think the ball coach has got a lot of work cut out for him, but somehow he always figures out a way to move the football, so we'll see.
Tony, great to be with you the other day in New Orleans, and thanks so much for your time. We'll see you very soon.
All right, Paul. See you in Dallas.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Jesse Palmer from ESPN did games all year long with Brent Musburger on the SEC Network. Jesse, thanks for the time. I do want to start by asking you about you've done games with Reese and so many other top personalities at ESPN, but what was it like every Saturday night being with the legendary Brent Musburger?
It was unbelievable, Paul. I had to pinch myself each and every week. Every time we would start a game, we'd be sitting together in the booth, and as soon as he would say, "You are looking live," I just had this moment where I thought to myself, what am I even doing here? This is a guy I grew up watching. I was idolizing. I don't belong in the booth with him. I don't deserve to be there. He was a tremendous joy to work with each and every week. Absolutely loves the sport of college football, and it was just a tremendous honor, literally, just to be around his presence and count myself lucky enough to work with him.
Yeah, and not to make light or make too much out of his age, but I mean he is at a point in life when most people go to Florida, they settle down, they hang out with grandchildren, they play golf. He shows no interest in that, does he?
No, well, he does have a house in Florida, and it's probably a compound in Jupiter, which he does go to when the weather gets bad. But you're right. The incredible thing about Brent, I think, is he's really, really sharp. And I talked about his passion for college football. He reads up on it all week long, and we were covering the SEC obviously on the SEC Network, but he was really kind of acute on what was going on in the Pac-12, even some of the Group of Five conferences. He was really, really sharp week in, week out. Loves the sport, and and obviously he spent that money he's making because he's got places all over the country.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's given you a few tips on where to buy good real estate around the world. Let's talk a little bit about what happened last Thursday, both in Pasadena and here. We've talked about the winners a lot, but your takeaway from the really brutal ending for Jameis Winston in Florida State.
Well, ultimately, I think we knew Florida State was a flawed team going into that game, and we knew they weren't the Florida State team from 2013. I think defensively the tempo of Oregon caught up with them. I've never seen a Florida State team quit, and I think that's something that we all saw late in that game. And it wasn't just lack of getting a pass rush on Marcus Mariota or the lack of the inability to stop the run. They just simply got gashed and gave up late in the game. Offensively, the turnovers simply did them in. And, I think a lot of people that didn't watch the game, I think they assumed Jameis Winston played poorly. I don't think so. There was certainly the one play that he coughs up a fumble. Tony Washington picks it up and scoops and scores. Aside from that, I thought Jameis Winston played very, very well. Obviously, Dalvin Cook fumbling. There was 4 fumbles in total from Florida State's offense. And when you give Oregon's offense the football back that often at the tempo they play at, and that was the fastest we'd seen Oregon play all season long when the starters were still in the game and it was still a game and competitive. They were snapping the ball once every 16 seconds, and at the end of the day, it was just too much for the Seminoles.
And if you had to take away one thing from Alabama's performance in New Orleans, whether it was a coaching decision or obviously we know Sims made a couple of poor decisions as quarterback, what would it be?
I was shocked at how physical Ohio State looked on offense. I never thought in 1,000 years that they could match Alabama's physicality, especially when stopping the run. I went back yesterday and I rewatched the film again. It wasn't only in the trenches. Where I really think Alabama got exposed in this football game was on the perimeter of the field, and we've known for the last 2 years an Achilles heel for Alabama defensively was giving up the deep ball, and certainly that demonstrated itself with a quarterback in Cardale Jones that can throw it a mile, and Devin Smith, one of the game's great deep threats in college football. But Ohio State won blocking on the perimeter of the field. Cornerbacks and safeties were getting pushed around. It opened up a lot of extra and added yardage for Ezekiel Elliott. It's amazing to think in the Nick Saban era, they had only allowed 9 100-yard rushers up until that point. And Ezekiel Elliott goes off for 230. That speaks to the physicality and how Ohio State played, not just inside on the perimeter as well. And I think that's where I was really shocked watching Alabama's defense.
You've undoubtedly heard many people writing off the SEC in the aftermath of what happened last weekend. You were in the SEC every weekend. You know the league as well or better than anyone. Where is this league right now?
In my opinion, the SEC is still the marquee conference in all of college football. I do think this is the first time in at least 9 years when the question gets asked, who's the best conference? It's not a rhetorical one, and it's not one that you can dismiss. I think you have to pause and think about it. Facts are facts. The 3 best teams in the SEC lost. They all lost New Year's 6 bowl games. Bowl games, to me, aren't the defining factor when determining which conference is best. You never really know where players' headspaces are when you have a month to prepare. A lot of guys are thinking about the NFL. Juniors are wondering whether or not they should declare. They're talking to agents, and a lot of players consider it a vacation. I do think it is critical, however, that teams like Arkansas, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee all won, because the one argument the SEC makes year in, year out, it's the deepest conference top to bottom. So in my opinion, still the best conference in college football, but this is the first time in 9 years that I think you at least have to pause and hesitate because, again, the facts are the facts.
I realize this is only Monday and the game is still a week off. A week from tonight, it won't have even begun yet. But some early thoughts on this matchup. What stands out?
Well, firstly, thank God for the college football playoff. If we were still in the BCS era, it was predicted Florida State would be playing Bama in this game, and obviously that'd be wrong. But 2 very deserving teams. I think the 2 most improved teams throughout the course of the year. I think the 2 teams playing their best football late in the season. In that regard, it kind of reminds me a lot about the NFL playoffs. Oftentimes we see the teams that are playing the best at the end of the season, going into the postseason, have the most success, and I think you can make that comment about each of these teams. To me, the coaching advantage goes to Ohio State with Urban Meyer, who's won 2 national championships at Florida as a head coach. The quarterback advantage goes to Oregon with Marcus Mariota, the Heisman winner. A lot of experience who could run this offense in his sleep, and a lot of big game experience. Ultimately, I think the game will come down to which defensive line plays the best in the trenches. Oregon's big, long, and athletic. Can they be physical enough against an Ohio State front? And for Ohio State, we know they're athletic. We're going to find out just how much. Can they keep Marcus Mariota inside the pocket, not allow him to extend plays? And can they play once every 16 seconds at a very high level for 60 minutes?
Great stuff from Jesse Palmer. Many thanks, Jesse. We'll see you very soon.
You know where to get that nice house, Paul, in Florida, just right near where Brent is. That's where you are, brother.
Oh yeah, I'm calling my real estate agent right now. Thanks. They wouldn't even let me tour the neighborhood, let alone buy a house.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Let's talk to Tom out in California. Hey, Tom. Good afternoon.
Hi, Paul. I'm calling in because, I hear some of the people from Florida trashing Urban Meyer, who I think is the best coach Ohio State's ever had. And I feel that, I think it was about 5 years he was at Florida. He did more than 5 years than a pretty great coach by the name of Spurrier could do in 12 years at Florida. He won 2 national titles at Florida, which is pretty darn impressive. Then you look at Urban Meyer, and Paul, you know this. He was at Bowling Green, which was a middle of the pack and team in the MAC, and won big there. Then he went to Utah, also 500 team, and he wins very big there. First time I took note of him was when he beat Walt Harris.
Listen, I agree with you. Urban Meyer is a great coach, but you just got through saying he's the best coach in Ohio State history. Woody Hayes won 5 national championships.
Well, okay. You look at Woody's first 3
Urban
years.
hasn't won any at Ohio State.
Well, he won 6. Well, he was undefeated his first year. I mean, even though he didn't
Woody Hayes won 5 national championships.
Well, he's won 5 national championships. He was also 16-7 and 2 ties his first 3 years. Urban Meyer's 37-3 his first 3 years.
Since when do we start awarding achievement award because of how you do after 3 years? I mean, Terry Bowden would have been the coach of the century. He lost 1 game in his first 2 years at Auburn.
Well, I'm not looking at 3 years. I'm looking at.
I don't know what you're looking at, Tom. With all due respect, but I appreciate the contribution to the show. Let's go to Foy next from North Dakota. How are you, Foy?
Good afternoon, Paul. Great day. Want to make a suggestion to you on one thing. First off, your book is wonderful.
Thank you.
If you'd write a second book, I wish you would write one explaining the traditions in the SEC, because when you guys talk about places like the Grove and the places you go for food and all these things, some of us never get a chance to experience that. And it would sure be nice if you could write a book about it, Paul, explaining all these traditions. But what I wanted to get to,
I can't wait to write that book. You mind if I leave now so I can get to work on it? I think I can have it out by tomorrow morning.
Well, I seriously mean that. You guys talk about all these great places and all the traditions that go with it, and it would be nice if I knew more about it,
Okay.
But I want to ask you one question. Not many people have talked about this, and I know it's not on your radar. It's not a high priority, but I'm an SEC fan, but I also live in North Dakota. We've got a big game coming up this week in the 1AA between Illinois and North Dakota State. I'd like to get your take on it.
Which game was that again?
The 1AA, the Bison and stuff. And
oh, yeah. Well, listen, I mean, everyone loves the Bison. They become ESPN's most adopted school. I couldn't be more impressed. Thanks for the call. Mike is next in Pensacola. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
Okay, thank you.
Big Gators fan, first-time caller. I just wanted to tell you that, in my opinion, from what I've seen the past couple of years, especially this bowl season, I definitely think that the SEC East is going to catch up, maybe even surpass the West in the next few years in terms of quality of team. Because as much as it pains me to say it, the West has been the class of the SEC the past few years. But, you look at the job that Stoops is doing in Kentucky. Granted, they fell apart the second half of the year, but they definitely look better than they had the previous couple seasons. Look at the job that Butch Jones is doing in Tennessee. I'm, hopeful that McElwain and his staff will get the Gators back to where they belong. And, Vanderbilt notwithstanding, it looks like everything's on the uptick for the East, whereas you look at the West.
Well, the only school I would quibble with you about in the East is South Carolina. I'm not sure I've seen any evidence that they're on the uptick.
Yeah, so I guess kind of forgot about that. I guess I tried to forget about Stuart since you left Florida. It still kind of hurts, but
Now they may be on the uptick from this year, but I mean, don't forget they won 33 games in 11, 12, and 13. So
yeah, I was about to say that. One mediocre season, I don't think wipes away the previous.
No, but it gives you reason for pause. I agree with the basic premise of your call. Fest is calling next. What's up, Fest?
What about it, Paul?
All good.
Hey, it's great. The playoff worked. It's nice. I didn't like the way it all worked out before the selection and all that, but thank God we have a playoff. Can I get an amen? No, but wanted to talk about Mariota. He is class act, and I think that offensively Ohio State can't shut them down, so I think it'll be a runaway with Oregon running away with their first title. But I really want to take a moment because this is my sounding board. You know, I grew up in a small town in Alabama, and Stuart Scott affected a small kid from a small town in Alabama, and it really devastated me to hear the news. And, you know, he won. He won because he didn't lose his battle to cancer. He won because of the way he lived his life. And if he can affect a kid from a small town in Alabama, I know he has a very large imprint on people. And, booyah. And with that, I'm out.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think there's any question that few broadcasters in modern history have had more of a profound impact than Stuart did. I appreciate your call. Let's continue with Boris next up. Good afternoon, Boris.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay.
I got a statement about the game, Alabama and Ohio State. My thing is, Urban Meyer, he motivated his team. Urban Meyer motivated his team. When Auburn lost to Wisconsin, he used it as a motivation speech, you know, to get his team motivated to take down Alabama. And I've been hearing a lot of negative things about the SEC. You know, SEC still won. You know, it went 7-5 in bowl games. And
yeah, well, let's hold on for a second. I mean, I've seen the SEC promotional departments, you know, spin that as the most bowl wins. I mean, it is to the SEC's credit that they had 12 teams in, but they still lost 5 times, and those 5 teams, and you know, they're highly rated. Their most highly rated teams lost. So why is the SEC promoting that they won 7 games? I mean, come on. I mean, let's get real. You lost the national semifinal. You lost 2 Power 6 games. It was an embarrassing performance by the SEC. So would the SEC quit trying to pull the rug over someone's eyes and make them think they had a great bowl season? They didn't. The SEC was a mess during the bowl season. But somebody in the SEC ought to say, well, never won more than 7 games. I mean, come on. I mean, face the facts. The SEC got run over during the bowl season.
No, but the SEC still got a chance to live another day. We're not the stars.
No, but we're not talking about another day. We're talking about today.
Yeah,
Mississippi State got blown away. Ole Miss was embarrassed. Alabama lost the biggest game of the year. So, I mean, where's all this conversation about, the SEC won 12, had 12 bowl participants. They went 7-5 in the bowl season. Is that what the SEC is supposed to be about? Hey, we went 7-5. And if Auburn hadn't hit the upright, we could have gone into overtime and been 8-4. I mean, yeah, I realize it's better than anyone else other than the Pac-12, but is that what the SEC has become? I don't think so. I think the SEC is about winning national championships, not about proclaiming that we went 7-5 during the bowl season. Let's move on and talk to Bill in Tennessee. How are you, Bill?
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Doing fine. I just want to say I believe the SEC is still the best conference. From what I understand, I think we sent 12 teams to the bowls.
Yeah,
I think that's a new record, another record for the SEC. I think we're the pace setters.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Did the SEC, has the SEC ever lost 5 bowl games? Do you know that? Can somebody in the research department look that up?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I know we tied another record at 7. We tied our own record. I think we broke a record but 7-12.
What does that mean, Bill? What difference does it make if you won 7 bowl games? You won the Shreveport game. You won the Birmingham game. I mean, what does that mean?
Well, I mean,
you lost one in.
We've been good. We're the best conference.
I mean, what kind of nonsense is this? I mean, I realize this is the SEC network. I haven't missed the name on the building outside, but I mean, since when does the SEC start bragging about winning 7 bowl games when you lost 5? Would someone please explain that to me? I can't hear you. Still there, Bill?
Best conference because we didn't put a champion in the game after 9 years. I mean, come on, and they act like it's over.
No one is saying it is over, Bill. No one's saying that. I'm just simply my only question I have is why is the SEC promoting a record 7 wins? I mean, has the SEC ever lost 5 bowl games? Would somebody please tell me that? Do we know?
Well, I don't know all the records, but
is the SEC going to issue a statement that we set a record for losing 5 bowl games? I don't remember the SEC ever losing 5 bowl games.
Me neither.
Okay.
But see,
well, hold on a second. We can't both talk at one time. Is the SEC office going to release that? We set a record. We lost 5 bowl games. No, but I read where the SEC set the record. We won a record 7 bowl games. I mean, let's be real, okay? All the best teams in the SEC look bad. The SEC East look good.
Except for the East, we balanced out the real estate there to keep this conference balanced.
And Bill, tell me this. Bill, tell me this. Let me ask you a question. Of the SEC East wins, which ones were you most impressed with?
We'll put more in there. And
no, just answer my question.
Win it every year.
Answer my question. Of the SEC East Bowl wins, which one were you most impressed with?
Well,
I know which one I was most impressed with.
Tennessee.
You better believe it. That was the most impressive win.
And I'm a big.
Iowa was a top 10 team all year, weren't they?
Oklahoma State University, and outside of this conference, I go with the Big 12. And look, they need to get up to our caliber and get 2 more teams in there to where they can have a playoff. But the rest of them's going to have to catch up with us with 14 teams.
Yeah, Tennessee's big win over Iowa finished 4th in the SEC in the Big 12 and the Big 10 West or whatever whatever they call that division out there. Listen, I thought Tennessee played great. I was impressed. I mean, Georgia played well, really well. South Carolina was lucky to win. Florida, considering everything, played well. I mean, showing up was considered an accomplishment for Florida when you factor in all the changes that have been made. So, I mean, the SEC East acquitted itself quite well. Texas A&M looked really good. Arkansas looked really good. But those big 5 in the SEC West, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, and Bama. Really impressive, wasn't it?
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN Radio app.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.